I recently worked on a Samsung Galaxy A52 that had developed a frustrating issue. The charging cable wouldn't go all the way into the USB-C port. At first glance, there didn't seem to be anything wrong. The port didn't look damaged, there was no visible corrosion, and nothing appeared bent or out of place. Still, when I tried to plug in the charger, there was unexpected resistance. And even when I managed to get the cable partially inserted, the phone would either not charge at all or would start charging and then stop if I so much as nudged the cable. The issue wasn't just with one charger, either. I tried multiple cables, including original Samsung ones and third-party brands, same result. That's usually a red flag that the problem is with the port itself, rather than the cables. So the first thing I did was to take a closer look inside the USB-C port using a flashlight. Sometimes, especially with phones that are kept in a pocket or bag regularly, lint or dust can accumulate and form a compact layer at the bottom of the port. This can prevent the connector from seating fully and make the cable feel loose or unresponsive. I didn't see any obvious debris, but just to be sure, I gave it a gentle blast of compressed air, nothing aggressive. Still, there was no improvement at all. The cable continued to resist entry, and when it did manage to connect, the phone wouldn't charge consistently. At that point, it was clear the issue wasn't just surface level. Based on experience, I suspected that the problem might be with the internal charging board, a small separate circuit board located at the bottom of the phone. On many Samsung models, including the A52, this charging board, sometimes called a subboard, handles the USB-C port, microphone, and other secondary connectors. Thankfully, it's not part of the main motherboard, which means that replacing it is relatively straightforward, as long as you take the proper precautions and know what you're doing. So I powered down the phone completely and removed the SIM tray. Then, I used a heat gun, set at a controlled temperature, to warm the back of the phone. This softens the adhesive holding the rear cover in place, which makes it easier to remove without cracking or warping the plastic. Once it was warmed evenly around the edges, I used a suction cup and a set of plastic opening picks to carefully lift and slide along the edges of the back panel. This process requires a bit of patience and a gentle touch, because applying too much force can damage the cover or leave marks. Once the rear panel came off, I was able to see the internal plastic frame that protects the motherboard and other components. I removed all visible screws using a precision screwdriver. It's important to keep track of which screws go where, as they can vary slightly in length and thread. Mixing them up during reassembly can cause damage. After lifting the internal cover, I finally had access to the area where the subboard sits. Before doing anything else, I disconnected only the battery flex cable, nothing else, just enough to ensure safety while working on the board. Even when the device is powered off, keeping the battery connected can lead to accidental shorts if you're working on sensitive components. With the power disconnected, I moved on to detaching the flex cables connected to the charging board. These include the interconnect cable between the main board and the subboard, and sometimes also the antenna cable or fingerprint sensor, depending on the model version. I gently pried those loose using a plastic tool, being careful not to tear or strain them. Now it was time to remove the faulty charging board. It wasn't screwed in, just clipped and held down by its own connectors. Using a bit of gentle leverage, I popped it out of place. Looking at it closely, I couldn't see any dramatic signs of wear or damage, but sometimes issues with the port are internal, tiny bent pins or broken solder joints that aren't visible from the outside. I had a replacement charging board ready, a compatible part for the A52. I aligned it carefully in its original position, making sure it sat perfectly in place. Then I reconnected the flex cables, ensuring they clicked into place snugly. No force, just even, steady pressure. Once the new board was installed, I reconnected the battery and did a quick test. As soon as I plugged in the charger, the phone responded immediately, no more resistance, no more wiggling required. The USB-C connector slid in smoothly, and the charging indicator came on right away. That's the moment you know the fix worked. After confirming everything was functioning correctly, I reversed the disassembly process. Screws back in their original positions, internal frame reattached, and finally the back cover pressed firmly into place. I applied light, Even pressure around all edges and used a bit of temporary tape to help the adhesive reset and seal properly. The repair was a complete success. The phone now charges flawlessly, the port feels solid again, and I was able to restore full functionality without replacing the motherboard or the entire device. For a relatively low-cost component and a bit of careful work, it was well worth the effort. This kind of issue is more common than people think, and often users assume the whole phone is done for when it's just the subboard causing trouble. If you're comfortable opening your phone and taking your time, it's absolutely a doable fix. And it's always satisfying to bring a phone back to life with just a bit of attention and care.